Hi everyone, my name's Sadie Hobson from We Work Well, here to bring you the latest in our vlog series about coping during the pandemic and beyond. So today I'm here with somebody who goes by the name of Positive Neil, and I think right now we all need a bit of positivity, don't we, Neil? So let's kick things off with just a brief intro, if you please. So who you are, what you do, why you do it would be quite interesting as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my name's Neil Jordan, also known as Positive Neil. There's a separate story behind why I'm Positive Neil. That wasn't self-proclaimed. I didn't just give myself that. It was actually given to me by someone else. But anyway,
I didn't know that. I thought it was your selected nickname.
No, I would never be that arrogant.
Exactly. And it's inspirational, but aspirational.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell the story now.
I'm afraid.
So I did some work with someone many years ago who used to, one of his pastimes was fighting at football.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
Which might also give you an insight with what it is that I actually do. So I taught him how to do meditation and mindset work and how his mind works and how he can control it more and just stop getting so angry all the time. Yeah. And he's West Ham and he's just about going to have a fight with Millwall, and he just stood there thinking, well, this isn't very peaceful, is it? Like this. And my understanding is he's not had a fight since, and this was years ago. He's in the music industry, and he nicknamed me Positive Neil, right? And this was like long before I started to get my business online and even call myself Positive Neil. He always called me Positive Neil. And then I got invited to his house for a party. And when I turned up, everyone was coming up because I've already said he's in the music industry. Yeah. So you got all these people coming up going, are you Positive Neil? Oh, hello, Positive Neil, like this. All right. So anyway, so that was in there, like a really good experience. And then when I started to get myself online and stuff, if you Google Neil Jordan, he used to be a famous film director from Ireland. I'm trying to remember the film that he done that was huge, but anyway, I can't remember it. So I thought, well, no one's ever going to find me.
Yeah.
So we need a different, and then it was obvious. Positive Neil.
I see.
But Positive Neil, but positivity again, for me is sometimes a little bit of a different definition, because I think sometimes people think positivity is leaning towards happiness and feeling like on the spectrum, that kind of end. Whereas my understanding of positivity is to be stable.
Okay.
Because if I'm at a funeral, I can still be positive, but the last thing I need to be displaying is happiness.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can still be positive because I can provide stability, support, strength for people that are really struggling.
So it's about positive and constructive qualities for you and for other people, as opposed to being this ray of happiness that's bouncing around, trying to sort of spread glee, everywhere they go. It's more about positive traits and qualities and how you express that, right?
Yeah, because every situation and every interaction gives me an opportunity to either be positive or negative. Now, positive is when I'm generating energy and I'm bringing something of quality to the experience or the interaction. Negative is the opposite. I'm damaging it. I'm damaging myself. I'm damaging them. I'm damaging the situation. And this is why if I get heavily influenced, like gossiping, if we negatively gossip about someone, I'm interacting in something that's negative, It's defaming someone else. It's lowering my standards. I'm moving into identifying someone's weaknesses, and I'm criticising, I'm storytelling negatively. So all of this, what kind of energy is that creating, and what is it doing for my mind? It's destabilizing me. Whereas positivity is more that I'm stable, so I can be in the middle of lockdown and still maintain a level of stability, so I can make decent decisions. Because although we're in lockdown, I've still got to perform actions. I've got a business to run. I've got to feed myself. I've got to make sure there's enough money. Now, if I go into a kind of meltdown where I'm unable to rationalize thought to convert that into action, I'm going to end up in a negative state. Whereas if I can remain stable, positive, then I'm more likely, it's not guaranteed, I'm more likely to make some decent decisions that are going to move me through the difficult period.
Okay.
Rather than being swamped by it.
Yeah, and reaching that sense of overwhelm, because that's what I think a lot of people are experiencing at the moment, is that sense of overwhelm with everything. People are alone with their thoughts a lot more than potentially they would usually be. Yeah. So I think the focus on the quality of those thoughts and how they're contributing to you and the people around you is really, really important right now. So, you know, anyone that you've worked with at the moment in this current situation, which is everyone's favourite word at the moment, unprecedented, you know, people perhaps who could cope with life as standard, perhaps right now are thinking, I don't know what to do with this one, because they've never had to deal with it before, or maybe experiencing thoughts they haven't, you know, perhaps experienced before that aren't serving them in a positive way. So what advice or strategies would you give or suggest to them to help them? Because it all sounds wonderful, but when you're in that moment and you are overwhelmed with thoughts that aren't helping you, even if you're aware of that, is knowing what to do about it that is sort of the main obstacle, if you like.
Okay, so I went off track, and I normally do. That's one of my that's one of my positives and negatives. Yeah. So Positive Neil is now my coaching and training business. Obviously, I'm doing more coaching than training at the moment. And then I've got a membership called the Good Thinking Club, which is why I thought it was worth mentioning, because you were talking about quality of thoughts and the management of thoughts. And that's what I teach people how to do inside the Good Thinking Club. Now, 20 years ago, I was a drug-taking hooligan, I suppose is the nicest kind of title. Yeah. Yeah.
Not quite great an alias as Positive Neil, I won't lie, as descriptions go.
Yeah. Well, this again is why I share my personal story, because I have transformed. I didn't need a pandemic to have very damaging thoughts. I didn't need a pandemic to be alone with my thoughts, and to be frustrated, confused, angry about stuff. And through learning a form of open-eyed thinking type of meditation, which is what I also help people learn the skill of. And you've done a couple of bits, haven't you?
I have. I was going to get on to my own experiences with Positive Neil. Yes. Yeah, it is interesting, but we'll get on to that.
So through learning that and through teaching that, I've been able to manage my thoughts a lot better. Now, look, it doesn't mean that I can levitate and move stuff with my mind and all of this. Yeah, I'm not there yet. But the ratio now of my thoughts and my feelings, because after your thinking comes feelings, which was a little diagram from something earlier, I forgot to wipe it off. You have thoughts that lead to your experience. Yeah. So it could be, I've lost my job. I've got no money. So if we keep going, I've got no money. I've got no job. I'm not going to be able to eat. So I could even feel that then. I didn't like that then, right? I
wasn't keen.
I was starting to generate the feeling of anxiety then, and I was only messing about. Yeah, not that I'm not taking it lightly.
No, I know.
Yeah. But I'm just improvising. But just by me doing that, when we create thoughts with power, because our thoughts are so powerful, we just don't realise. if I create thoughts of, oh no, that is what is going to lead to my experience. I'm going to develop that because it starts off on a vibrational level, then it becomes the hormones and the chemicals, and because you have a thought, and we've all got a chemist called the pituitary gland, yeah. So then we instruct our chemist what chemicals to mix and to flush into our systems. So when we're happy about something, he'll do dopamine and serotonin and all of this. And then when we're, well, that's what it's like. I've just told him, and then he gets his mixing bowl out and like pours it in. Yeah?
Yeah.
But visualizing it like that really helps me understand the split-second process that's going on inside of me. So I can then start to influence that. Yeah, if I don't want to feel negative, unstable, fearful, then I need to disrupt it there. If I wait for the world to placate and everyone starts holding hands and skipping, and do you know what I mean? And it becomes the most wonderful place to live, then I'll be okay. Forget it.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not.
But it's interesting what you've got behind you. And I know this is from a different session, but I'm going to bounce on it anyway.
Yeah.
The top bit that I can see where it says, I am peaceful. Now, it's very unlikely we're, unfortunately, ever get to a position where we can say the whole world is peaceful, right? And waiting for our peace to come when world peace comes is going to be a bit of a long wait. But that's what I like about your work and the sessions that I've attended with you, because it is more about personal empowerment and what I can do to influence myself, as opposed to having external drivers impact you. And I think that's particularly what a lot of people need right now, is how to feel empowered to take care of themselves and what tools they have within, as opposed to looking outward and waiting for things to change. Because right now we are facing a lot of future uncertainty. It's not the case that lockdown will end and whoop, we're all back. You know, it's still, we really don't know where things are going to go. So I think the more that people take control about how they're reacting, how they're thinking, and how that's affecting their feelings and behaviour, the more able they'll feel to cope with whatever comes next, really.
Go on.
No, I was going to ask a question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with this.
No, put me on the spot. I like it.
No, there's a few schools of thoughts in sort of discussions around, say, mental health and wellbeing and things, that you can't use positive thinking to outthink a mental illness. I think there's a phrase that's a bit more succinct than that, but you get where I'm going, that if somebody has a diagnosed condition, no amount of positive thinking will help that. Now, yes, there's different therapies for different people. Yes, there's different solutions for different people, different medications. You know, everyone is very unique and different to what they need in dealing or recovering with what they've got. But what's your take on that? Because obviously you spoke about football hooligans and people sort of dealing with the stress of life and things. But what about when it comes to an actual sort of diagnosed condition or illness? Do you think there's still a very big part to play in what you're talking about today?
Okay, good question. Everything I share is only stuff that I've practically used in my life. None of the stuff that I teach has just been gleaned from a book and I'm just repeating it. My background was chaos. I got kicked out of home 15, 16. Don't worry, Mum, I still love you. We're sorted now. But yeah, I don't blame her. She kicked me out when I was 15, 16. I started smoking at 11. By 19, I was on crack. I didn't get into heroin. I didn't like needles. My best mate was murdered when I was 22. Homeless 4 times, and the OD'd 3 times. Chaos. I've done mental first aider training, and when I heard their definition of trauma, I then realised I was having multiple traumas in one day. I was just going from trauma to trauma to trauma to trauma, and society had written me off. But I bumped into someone after I hadn't seen them for 10 years, and they said, "Oh, how comes you're not dead or in prison?" And they meant it. Yeah, they
Wow.
they could not work out how I'm still here. Now I've got friends that knew me then, they still can't work out that I'm positive nil now and that I've created such a transformation. Now I've done that without any medical tag.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I've had no one external to me saying, Neil, you've got this. Yeah. I've not had any rehab. I've not done any medication. I've not even been to prison where I had loads of time to focus on myself. I'm a normal guy in a world that could have consumed me like it did my best mate. I've got out of that. The tactics and the techniques and the understanding that I've got is all through my personal experience of that transformation. I'm not a doctor. I understand nothing about medicine. As soon as someone starts saying a Latin sort of name that sounds like a tablet, I shut down. Yeah, the word hospital. Yeah. As soon as I have to go to one, I'm like, when am I leaving? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is all I share.
Hmm.
So I don't feel I'm in a position to comment on other people's
Yeah.
positions.
Hmm.
But what I can do is comment on my own position and experience. And now I've learned some of the definitions of mental health states. Yeah. I think I've had nearly all of them at some point,
Hmm.
other than proper psychosis. But I used to do a lot of LSD. So I probably had psychosis in the middle of a trip. Yeah. So I think I've had pretty much the full range at some point, either for longer periods, shorter periods, or the rest of it. And I've still got a pathway in front of me of self-progress.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not allowing the negativity that I've got inside of me to prevent me from moving forward. And when we understand, because I'm almost waiting for science to catch up. Yeah, there was a book I read called Physics by Fritjof Capra. I had my own personal meltdown when my wife Yvonne, I'd stopped doing the heavy drugs. I'd stopped fighting and stuff like that I used to do, and I was trying to calm down.
Hmm.
But when you're trying to calm down, life's pretty boring when you're used to fighting and like just chaos.
No adrenaline, is there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you buzz on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
if something ain't going wrong and you're not under threat, then life becomes boring.
Yeah.
A bit like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas. You know what I mean? I always promised that I would never ever become like him,
Yeah.
and then I realised I have become like him. Yeah, and that was hurtful for a period of time. So anyway, I ended up getting drunk in Leigh-on-Sea, down at the Billet where I used to go all the time, and I offered the whole pub out. No one took me on. So a friend of mine carried me off up the road and told me to behave myself. And I walked from Leigh-on-Sea to Rayleigh on the middle white lines all the way home. There must have been a desire for a car to hit me or something, yeah?
Is that via the 127, the A road?
No, Dawes Heath Road. So
Yeah.
the
Still, that's quite a significant action to take, isn't it? To be walking down the middle of the road.
yeah. So I think this is where I'd got to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So mentally, not in a healthy place. But I don't know what happened that night. I did then. I woke up the next day and I said to Yvonne, I think that I realised how close it had got. And I said to her, I'm going to borrow some money from my mum. I'm going on a retreat. I've never been on anything like that before. This is back in 2000, yeah?
Right.
So I borrowed some money off my mum, and Yvonne said, do whatever you got to do, sort yourself out. I went away on this retreat, and that was the beginning.
How long was the treat?
Week, 2 weeks. I can't remember. I just got drunk every day. It was mad. I'd do yoga and stuff in the morning, and then I don't drink at all now. Haven't done for 18, 19 years. Yeah, I think I just got drunk every night, did yoga in the morning, and did this thing called kinetic awareness, and that was the powerful one. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I read this book, Physics by Fritjof Capra. And what he was comparing, he was a physicist in the 70s, And he was comparing what spiritual leaders, not religious, spiritual leaders, had shared through their sacred texts and stuff. And what he would do was explain a physics experiment. Then you would get the, whatever they call it, where they give the final overview of it from the scientist, the conclusion. And then next to it would be a similar perspective from a spiritual leader. Right. And what he was highlighting was they were both saying exactly the same thing, but using different terminology. Half the time I couldn't understand the physics experiment. And then when I read the spiritual one, I got it. It was amazing.
All clicked
so
together.
There was this huge transformation in my mind, which enabled me to see that knowledge is one, rather than you've got science is this, physics is that, religion is this, Christianity is that. Do you know, I realised it's all part of the same melting pot. So I was armed with that then, and I started to understand that actually no one can tell me about my mind, because they're not in my mind. And I think in didn't they used to do lobotomies, didn't they? Yeah, where they used to try and change people's minds. Yeah. We're going to change your mind. We're going to drill a hole in your head and change your mind. Yeah. And they banned it or whatever because it didn't work. And I feel that all the change and transformation that I've done in my life, I didn't need anyone to tell me. I decided if I couldn't do something, I would study, I would try something, I would mess it up, I would then try something else. And this is how I found my way through until I learned the meditation. And then I was really able to motor, because it gave me a structure and a system to stop being influenced by preloaded thoughts, to separate. And I know because science is catching up with the observer position that they talk about in quantum physics. That's what we do in the meditation. So you get into that observation position, and then you can see your thoughts and feelings, or feel them. Depends whether you're more auditory, kinetic, or...
How long does that take to get to a point where you can do that?
Well, if people follow the steps that I teach them, and they follow them, rather than sitting there telling me all the reasons why they can't follow them, right? Because they're just, again, being absorbed by their own preloaded beliefs and perception. If they actually just did it and followed my instructions, you could pretty much have that experience straight away. Because it's actually a natural position. Because when I could say to you now, tell me about a holiday, all right? How hot was it? Where you're sitting? What's the sea like? What's the sand like? Oh, how did it feel between your toes? And da-da-da-da-da.
Mine, everyone always talks about beaches and holidays. Mine would always be on the top of a mountain with snow and a snowboard, so it would be cold.
Okay, right. Okay. But even that, what colour's the snowboard? What's the air quality like up there?
Yeah.
And the longer we talk about it and the more questions I ask you, the more you will actually start to relive that experience. So all I've done is I've given you the triggers, and that's why questions are so powerful, which I learned when I did my coaching qualifications, again, back in early 2000s. When you ask a question, I'm actually getting you to go inside your subconscious, your consciousness, and draw something out. And every experience we've had, we record the information through the physical senses, but what we do is we lace it with feeling. And then that's what goes into the compartment, into the filing cabinet.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So then when someone gives you a trigger, what you do is you go to the file and then you pull it out and then you relive quite often the feeling. You don't bother reading the file. You just open it up and it's, and then we just express it. And because we then express it, we then put another layer back into the folder.
Mm-hmm.
Then we put the folder back. Then we get
You're
the trigger.
building up. Because sometimes people talk about building a toolkit that they draw on in certain situations when they're feeling stressed out or anxious. So in essence, your filing cabinet, is that a similar analogy that you can draw on these files to use to cope with situations, or is that different?
Well, you can. That's different. What I'm explaining is how your mind is actually working, and that you can choose your thoughts and your feelings. But what we've got is files that are already in the cabinet.
Right.
So
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is when it's funny because all the problems of the world now during this pandemic, I've been helping people with those for the last 20 years. Uncertainty, confusion, too many thoughts, overwhelm. Yeah, it's always all been there. It's just now we've got it en masse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I always say to people is the trick is you need stock. You need stock of peace. Yeah. And when I say peace, I'm talking about it can end up a tangible experience in your consciousness. We're talking about on a vibrational level. That's the closest I can get in terms of matter. Yeah, we're not talking hormones and your chemist mixing up, right?
Yeah.
We're talking on the vibrational level. Peace, stability, solid, security. The security has to come from me being secure and being me. Then I bring that into my thoughts, my words, my actions. So I have to build up a stock of peace. And what happens is people don't tend to speak to me or search for solutions until the problem's overwhelming them. And then they just want a quick fix. They want a tablet, or I've even noticed in films lately, you'll get someone having a really difficult period and then someone will give them a 1 sentence motivational paradigm shift.
Little soundbite, yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll go, oh yeah, and then they totally change, like, if only, right? Yeah, quite often you need the soundbite, like, you are already peaceful, you just got to find it. Oh, really? Yeah, you need to use the word I am peaceful and really mean it, yeah? Sankalp, like the Hindi, powerful thought, yeah? Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds nice. Oh, yeah, I had a lovely, wonderful, peaceful experience then. Yeah? Right, bye, Neil. Yeah, and then I see him a week later. How's it going? Oh, what was it we spoke about again?
What am I again?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So what we have to do is keep feeding ourselves the experiences that we want, because an experience comes from a thought. So if I don't think it, how am I going to experience it? What, wait for world peace, wait for everything to go back to normal, wait for this, wait for that. When I was homeless, I couldn't just wait for someone to go, oh, you're homeless, would you like a house? Yeah. Oh, you're having you're ODing, right? So we will, actually, I don't even know what the solution is there. It's like, well, they might make it, they might not. Yeah. Yeah. It's when we're right in it, that's not when you need to start creating the peace. You almost need to create it when you don't need it. So then when you need it, you've got it.
Yeah, I understand that about the reserve, because I often talk to people about their energy and having an energy reserve and constantly refueling that stock and knowing what they do every day, spiritually, mentally, physically, to keep that reserve at an okay level, so that when something drains it, and they have a tough day, that they're not going sort of into the overdraft, if you like, of their energy, that they stay at a manageable level. So it's, I get that. What I really like is you're very, very raw and honest and transparent with everything you've done, everything you can do, all your experiences, the fact that you're not professing to be a medical expert, a clinician in these areas, that, you know, it works for you and has worked for you, and therefore you believe and have seen it works for other people. So, you know, I think people in different situations need different things, but it's all about starting to think about what they can do for themselves. Another question I want to put to you, I just want to hear your thoughts on it, really. So you mentioned about self-acceptance and, you know, taking the time to think about your thoughts and thinking, oh, I am peaceful and stuff like that. But do you think it's, I know you've been helping people with a lot of these issues for a lot of time, but do you think that right now, because of what we're going through, well, let's face it, on a global scale, there are higher levels of societal stress and more, you know, what you talked about earlier, you know, it wasn't just chaos, it's trauma, what you went through. And right now there's a lot of collective trauma. And for me, there's almost like a contagion. So I think it's a lot more difficult for people to take it upon themselves to think, no, I'm peaceful, I can handle this, and look at their own personal strategies, because every time they go on social media or turn on the TV or expose themselves to this current reality, there's a bombardment of all this crisis and all this, what are we going to do, and all this, you know, the impact on the NHS, the trauma, you know, the loss of lives. You know, it's really difficult, I think, in the face of that, for people to look into themselves and what they need, because there's a lot of anxiety about what family members, friends, colleagues that have been furloughed or lost their jobs, you know, everyone's, I think, feeling that ripple effect of other people's trauma. And even if they're not directly impacted, say, by losing a family member or losing their job or anything like that, we're feeling these reverberations. Is that the right word? I think I might have made that up. Ripples. Let's go with ripples.
Yeah. Vibrations.
That's, yeah. Do you see what I mean? But it's, I think it's more difficult. And people almost say to me, they have said to me, that they feel guilty if they are coping okay, if they are feeling okay during this time, if they are feeling at peace and balanced and all these things, because they feel bad because other people aren't, quite frankly.
Yeah, but again, it's understanding what peace is. Yeah, peace is you wouldn't build a house on sand. Yeah, you build a house on solid foundations. Mm-hmm. We all know that when we used to go on holidays, remember that? Yeah, when you used to get on a plane and they would go, if the mask drop, put them on your kids first before yourself, and they'd have to tell you that. Yeah. Yeah, you're not logically working that out.
No, isn't it? You put it on yourself before the kids.
Sorry, that's the way I meant it. Yeah. Sorry.
That's a trick question, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. You're listening. You're listening. Well done.
Yeah.
You passed. Yeah, put it on yourself before. Yeah. So we've got to look after ourselves. So all the examples that you gave, I'm worried about family members. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's break that down. How is that worry helping them? Mm-hmm. How is that worry helping you? Yeah. Thought has a purpose. We don't just think just for the hell of it. I know we probably do now in the modern society, yeah. But the primary purpose of thought is to bring that energy into action, into the world, yeah. So if I'm just sitting there going, oh no, well, how are you helping yourself and how are you helping them? Because you're worried because you want them to be safe, secure, stable, Well, haven't I just described peace?
Yeah.
So if I then develop my own peace, and I'm not just doing it for a hack, I'm doing it to tap into my natural being. So it's not just and I know I used the word experience, but you have to, when you learn to ride, you've got to use stabilizers, yeah? Yeah. But when you start to access that peace, you start to understand this is who I am. And when I'm stable, I think less. Mm-hmm. If I think less, it's going to be easier to come up with a solution, because every problem and challenge, that's what's required, is a solution, not a repetition of what the problem is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot harder to think of solutions and solve a problem when you're experiencing stress.
When you're emotional, yeah, definitely.
When you're overwhelmed constantly with thoughts about the situation.
There's a little metaphor, simile, analogy. I did start to look those up the other day, yeah. But whatever those are, yeah, right, you know what I mean. So we're all in a platoon, yeah, in a battalion or whatever. I don't know the measurements of soldiers. So anyway, we're going across a battlefield. Captain's leading us. The enemy starts firing bullets. So you can imagine it. It's chaos. Bullets flying everywhere. And our captain curls up on the floor, crying, asking for his mum. How do we all feel now?
Even more scared, I think, to be honest.
Right. So let's rewind. Let's replay. we go across, the captain's leading us, the bullets start flying, we all hit the deck, and you know, like, I don't know if you've seen Apocalypse Now with Robert Duvall, I'm showing my age now, with Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
And he's standing there and the bullets are whizzing and he's not even flinching. And it's like our captain's just standing there and you just know a bullet's not going to hit him. Yeah. How do we now feel?
A lot more confident, a lot more assured. Yeah. A lot more balanced.
Right. Now he's giving instructions now. The other one's crying for his mum. This one is going, right, you three go that way, you two go that way. And they're going to start pincering and coming up with strategies to overcome the challenge. The captain is us. The soldiers are our thoughts and feelings. The enemy is life. The bullets coming. We always have challenges coming, but instead of being defeated, I've got a choice to learn, to develop, to strengthen, to improve my strategy, to find a way, to become solution focused. And in that moment, I've got that choice. Now, if I've got the practice of being in a worried state, I'm less likely to choose a thought to then bring into action to move forward. Instead, I'm going to get stuck, I'm going to get overwhelmed, and I'm just going to get more. And thought energy is so powerful. That's why we really feel the feelings of it. Yeah. That's why when you go into a room, you can feel the vibration of others. Yeah. Whereas if I've got the practice of being peaceful, when the challenge comes, I've got stock. Yeah. And it just buys me that split second to, well, hold on here. Okay. Now what are we going to do about it? I've got two parents. They live separately, but they're in their 70s. Straight away, oh, they're most at risk. I'm speaking to them on the phone, and they're going, "Oh, we're all right." You know what I mean? And it's like yeah,
my mum.
Right. And it's like, well, it's okay if you think you're all right, but you're going to go around spreading it to everyone else. Yeah. Like it's just like they're just not getting it. So I'm now putting the phone down. I've now got an opportunity to get anxious, haven't I? Or I'm moving to, right, well, what's the solution? What can I do? And I think sometimes when we accept a situation, and it doesn't mean you become a doormat, because that's just step one, but if I accept it, then I can move forward into solution mode. If I'm resisting it, that's actually what creates a lot of our problems. Yeah. Now, my best mate was murdered in 1994. I partly blamed myself for that murder and held on for that for 20 odd years, 23 years, and self-sabotage for those 23 years. And I didn't even know that was all going on inside. Yeah. So I know myself that and normally when I share that, I used to get upset. That's how I know I'm moving forward with it. Yeah. Now, because of that nugget that he gave me, I knew the first thing I had to do was accept that he's gone, accept that I didn't say what I wished I'd said the week before when he came to me for help. Yeah. And through that acceptance, as painful, as much as I didn't want it, and it's almost like, well, almost like, and I do talk to myself like this, tough, yeah, all right, accept it, and then let's see what's on the other side. Otherwise, I'm going to get here, like in no man's, like this side of no man's land. I need to go through no man's land to get to the other side. Yeah. And then that's what I started to bring in. So if I would say, and I've done this with my parents, with the death of my friend, accept this current situation. Now you reduce the emotional effect, then you can use rational thought to start to strategize. And yes, you may be in a very difficult financial situation. You may be, my wife now works from home. She's got there's someone at her work. She lost her dad through the coronavirus, chose to go and see him because otherwise she's never going to see him again. Then had to stay 2 weeks away from her kids, trying to homeschool, trying to fit the work in. It's too much.
Mm.
But what are your options? You're on that battlefield. What are your options? And I think the thing that I've really worked on, and what I try and help people do, is it all just starts with a thought. And even if I can just create a thought of hope,
Mm-hmm.
that can just move it's like a ship leaving a port, isn't it? Yeah. And if it's 1 degree off, I don't know how many miles, it totally misses its destination. So if I can just move my thinking 1 degree, I'm going to go off into a totally different direction, because it all begins with a thought. Yeah.
It's interesting what you say. There's a saying, isn't there? I can't remember where the origin is, but it's what your mind resists always persists, or something. And if you try and resist it or suppress it or push it away or deny it, then it will bubble under the surface and it will lay dormant. It doesn't ever go away. And the more you try and resist it or pretend it's not happening or be angry about it, it is that point of acceptance. And that's like the Stephen Covey, the circles of concern and influence, and the most people focus on the bigger stuff that you can't actually do anything about. And I think it's just honing that down to right now thinking about what can I do. And it's interesting because you started to say about your parents, and I said, it reminds me of my mum, but you went off in sort of a different angle about it. But my mum is very much, she was like, I'll be fine. I'll be absolutely fine. It's fine. And any concerns I had, she was like, no, it's good. And yes, she's adhered to all the regulations. Yes, she stayed indoors and done everything she has to do, but she's still the most positive, optimistic, hopeful. She's learning how to ferment foods. I mean, she lives on a narrow boat. She's got a tiny garden. It's not like, they've got tons of space, but she's, doing new crafts, and she's just embracing. I can't do anything about it because she's considered high risk because of my stepdad. And, they're doing everything they have to do, but it's not like, oh, this is really tough. This is really awful. It is what it is, and she can't do anything about it. So instead she's thinking, what can I do? What can I grow in my little garden? What can, and I love it because all my life I've found her such an inspiration, and even the way she's dealing with this, I really, really do, because she's just, like you say, looking about what you can do rather than all the things that you can't do.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I think as well for people to think about not just what they can do, but what they need and what will help them during this time. And there being no judgment in that process, because I think there's a lot of comparison with how people are coping right now with other people and what they're doing and how they're coping. And I think it's all about drilling it down to thinking, what do I need? And again, it's back to that reserve. And we both attack the reserve in different ways, but it's how can I keep that stock at a healthy level? How can I manage it in a healthy way? And what do I need each day to keep me healthy and to keep my thoughts being healthy? So it's that. Again, it's not just self-acceptance, but it's self-awareness of.
It is, and one of the tricks that we use is even if I'm not feeling positive, because we are so easily influenced, right? Choose the influence. Mm-hmm. So listen to a positive podcast, read a positive book, watch a positive film, read a positive something in your diary from the past or whatever. Remember something positive, because if you need a nudge or like a quick jolt, like on your battery, like when you jump start a car, then use those resources to give you a jump start. Mm-hmm. And then once you feel the jump start, then start trying to create your own thoughts that create power.
Yeah, I love that. That's something I do with people when I'm working with them. I talk about, like, it's interesting, drawing different senses that you were talking about, like the holidays and stuff. I ask them to write down a person they find to be like an inspirational role model, write down their name, then write down a song that they find quite uplifting. Could be remind them of, I don't know, their wedding, a scene in a film. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And then a scent that has a positive association, and to just go through and for 30 seconds imagine that person, 30 seconds ideally sing that song. And for 30 seconds, drawing a deep breath and imagine your lungs are filling with that scent. Because again, it's all positive association, and
and it's good. It's good, but I only ever use it as a jump start.
Yeah.
Because what I want to try and get across to people is you hold the power. If you're full of worry, that has not come from outside and entered you. Yeah, it doesn't float through the air and come down the chimney. Yeah. We create
Father Christmas, no?
Like we create the thought, then it vibrationally, then the chemist starts flushing the system, then we look for evidence in the world to back up how we feel, and then that's how we end up on this loop.
Yeah.
And that's why we then think it's coming from outside, but it's not. It's coming from my interpretation of the outside.
Yeah.
So change interpretation. So use those things as a jump start, but learn to master your mind. Your thoughts are so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. I can't say that enough and deep enough for people to really get it. Yeah, because it is. Yeah, it's like I want a reversal about me. I want to get it into people's heads just how powerful they are.
I can
but
tell.
I keep saying it, and people just, oh yeah, oh I'm so powerful.
Please, yeah.
And then and then they forget that. Yeah, it's like.
Okay, I'm going to start to draw to a close. I mean, I could talk to you for ages about this, but could I just ask you to signpost anyone who's listening and wants to hear more about what you do, how they can find the Good Thinking Club, where they can go for more advice and guidance from you?
Well, at the moment, I'm sharing 28 days of the Good Thinking Club. Obviously, this is the 5th of May. We're talking about this. I think there's only about a week left of that, but it's going to be up for a bit more time than that. But if you go to Positive Neil on Facebook, it's there, but you can connect with me. Just type in Positive Neil anywhere, really, and you can connect with me. That's the beauty.
Jordan.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, I might be Neil Jordan, aka Positive Neil. But yeah, you type in Positive Neil, you can connect with me. And if anyone's got any questions about what we've spoken about today, even if it's really challenging and you think you might upset me or something, please send it to me, because then I can jump on and do a live about it. And because if I know what people's challenges are and I'm not explaining my stuff properly, the better I know that. All my life is just trying to help people get some of the stuff that's helped me so much in my life. That's all I'm trying to do. That's all I'm trying to do.
I appreciate that. And that comes across in spades. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll buy into that. And I'll tag you in wherever I share this video, so people have to
that'd be brilliant,
relatively easily. But thank you so much. I've really appreciated your time, and like I said, I could chat to you forever about this sort of stuff, because it's from a down the rabbit hole interesting.
It is. Oh yeah, we can talk forever.
I'm sure other people find it of great value, so thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone. Take care. Stay strong.
Always.